The man began to swell strangely in the neck from inhaling the air, and he was continuously choking out white foam. It was clear that he was showing signs of suffocation. In the future world, a sudden thick fog swept across the globe. Once humans inhaled this gas, their bodily functions would collapse and disintegrate within hours. The entire surface was contaminated by toxic fog, and only a few lucky ones escaped death and moved to underground settlements. However, resources underground were limited, and if humans couldn't find a way to cope, they would eventually face extinction. To prevent this situation, a group of scientists formed a specialized team to study the mysterious fog on the surface. They hoped to uncover the reasons for the formation of this mysterious gas. Our protagonist, Kira, is a researcher on this team. She has been living underground for over a decade, repeating monotonous daily tasks and recording routine data on the fog. Her only companion is a smart machine. In fact, she has adapted to this boring life. Life is as tasteless as the rations provided underground, but Kira still holds onto the hope of returning to her past life. She exercises daily to prevent muscle atrophy, and has never slacked off even for a day. The leader at headquarters often sends videos to motivate the members.
You are that hope. We live to fight every day, from headquarters with scientists and leaders, or alone. In your underground settlement, we are always making progress.
In the evening, Kara was lying on the sofa, reading to pass the time. Suddenly, the computer emitted a notification sound. It turned out that it was almost time for the supply distribution. She had been staying in the underground settlement, and was about to lose her sense of time. Kara washed up early and went to bed to rest, preparing for tomorrow's trip to pick up supplies. The next day, Kara changed into her protective suit, and took out the weapons from the cabinet. She put on the protective mask hanging by the door. Kara left the cabin fully armed. She stood in front of the bunker's airlock. Kara announced her department and identification number. The next second, the tightly closed protective door opened. Kara climbed up through a vertical ladder. She passed through a dark corridor, and successfully arrived at the surface world. Outside, there was a thick white fog with very low visibility. There were no living creatures in sight. Kira headed to the designated location. She checked if the detection equipment was functioning properly. At this moment, a supply-dropping drone flew by, and completely ignored Kira as it moved forward. It dropped the supplies into the river ahead. Kira cursed under her breath. She waded through the river to drag the supply box back to the shore. Kira opened the lock to check, and fortunately, the supplies inside weren't wet. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. After returning to the bunker, she immediately took a shower, to avoid any toxins from the muddy water. Then Kara got back to her daily tasks, recording tedious air data and maintaining the equipment. An unexpected situation soon occurred. The network in Kara's chamber suddenly went down, and she lost contact with headquarters. Kara immediately summoned her intelligent assistant, Wings, to search for signal towers near the bunker. Only by sending a distress signal from one of the towers can she re-establish contact with headquarters. Kara's colleague Jack happened to be stationed nearby. His base was right next to the signal tower. Kara quickly donned her gear. Just as she was about to set off, the computer suddenly restarted, but Kara used this as an excuse to climb up through the ladder again to the surface. She carefully covered the entrance of the bunker. The intelligent assistant, Wings, scouted from above to indicate the path for Kira to follow. The various bunker bases were far apart from each other. She made her way through a desolate landscape. Kira hadn't even seen a single mouse. Soon, Kira finally arrived near Jack's base. She drew her gun and cautiously entered the building. Kira quickly found the entrance to the bunker. To her surprise, it was flooded with standing water. Kira felt even more uneasy. She hurried to the signal tower to prepare to call for help from headquarters. When Kira climbed to the top of the tower, she saw a person slumped over on the table. From the clothing, this person was also an employee of Kara's company. There was a suicide note left on the table. It revealed that the employee had found a strange radio a few days ago, inside which was an audio clip that exposed a cruel truth.
Our employers have abandoned the project and left us to die alone. I tried to contact our other nearby stations, but nobody has picked up so far. On top of it all, my base got flooded the other day. I have nowhere to go now but to end it.
It turned out that the man who had committed suicide was Jack. Kara picked up the intercom to try to contact headquarters, but the response was that the radio had been disabled. She was unwilling to stay put and wait for death. Since she received supplies not long ago, it meant the headquarters was still operating. Kara decided to go herself to find answers. She said goodbye to her deceased friend and moved on. The journey was long, and she certainly wouldn't reach her destination anytime soon. Kara found an abandoned car by the roadside. and prepared to crawl inside to rest for a while. Wings sat on the hood, keeping watch over its owner. Before long, Kara just woke up. She walked into a nearby forest. To her surprise, she saw a tank inside. Just then, she heard noises in the woods, and quickly hid under the tank. 3 armed men walked by. They seemed to be heading to a nearby village. After the 3 men walked far away, she crawled out and headed in the opposite direction. Kara ran a long distance before daring to stop and catch her breath. Fortunately, headquarters was not far away. Kara entered the code to unlock the gate. The base was equipped with an air filtration system, so she could finally take off her mask and breathe. But there was no one in the hall. The offices were eerily quiet. Kara sensed something was wrong, and casually opened a computer. It contained a notice of project termination. She clicked on one of the emails. According to its contents, the board had decided to terminate the research on the fog. The high-level executives had evacuated the base. Employees from various departments who received the email could use the emergency evacuation protocol to pack up their belongings and leave as soon as possible. No wonder Kara's network had suddenly gone down. It turned out the entire project had been halted. But why hadn't anyone informed her? Kara felt both confused and angry. The team had been disbanded directly. Where was she supposed to go now? The email stated that all employees should go home. But in such an apocalyptic context, who still had a home to return to? Just as Kara was throwing a chair to vent her anger, 3 survivors arrived at headquarters. One of them even tried to take wings. After Kara's warning went unheeded, she shot at the man's toes. Unexpectedly, the man attempted to retaliate. Kara casually shot and killed the man. The remaining 2 accomplices exchanged glances. An Asian woman lunged at her to avenge her friend. She was also shot dead by Kara. The last remaining black man dropped his weapon, surrendered, and turned around to leave the base. Kara also took wings and left the place. She emerged from the underground exit to the back of the base. Kara planned to return to the bunker first. At least there were still some food and water supplies there. Suddenly, wings went out of the monitoring range. Just then, a woman intercepted Kara. She punched Kara in the stomach. Kara immediately drew her dagger and stabbed the woman. But the woman's accomplices quickly charged at her. They took Kara's weapon and fixed her on a tree trunk, beating her to vent their anger. One of them walked over and injected a needle of drugs into Kara's leg. She became disoriented and passed out. When Kara regained consciousness, she found herself tied to a chair. In front of her, David removed his gas mask and asked Kara why she didn't retreat with the main group, and why she was wandering around in her company uniform. Kara actually wanted to retreat with them, but no one had informed her at all. David angrily said, "A few years ago, I sought help from your company's headquarters, hoping to get a hand in finding a way to survive. But they only wanted smart, highly educated researchers, and completely ignored the lives of people like us. However, after so many years, and these so-called smart people have found no solutions. Instead, they have monopolized all the quality resources, eating the cleanest food and living in the best settlements. Now, they even stopped the project without telling anyone." David and his companions searched through headquarters, but found nothing of value. They set their sights on Kara's intelligent robot, and ordered her to summon it back.
I don't know where it is. I mean, it always flies off somewhere.
Put in the return code, or I will press my fucking thumbs straight through your eyes.
Kara followed their instructions, but recalling wings would take time. Moreover, she was unhappy with David's accusations. Kara wasn't someone who wasted resources. She had spent 10 years in the bunker retrieving data, and assisting the company with research. She had never slacked off for even a day. David interrupted Kara as she tried to argue. He bluntly said, "If your robot doesn't return in 10 minutes, I will cut your throat." After saying that, he assigned Blake to watch over Kara. As soon as David left the room, Kara curled up, pretending to have a stomachache. When Blake tried to approach to check on her, she suddenly threw a chair at him. Then Kara picked up the axe on the ground for defense. Blake urged her to calm down. Unexpectedly, Kara directly took the axe and chopped it over. She showed no mercy to Blake. Kara disarmed him and took his mask off, equipping herself with it. Then she carefully slipped out through the back door. A long-haired woman was squatting not far away. Kara took a deep breath and lunged at her while she was unprepared. She easily stabbed the woman to death. Then Kara stripped the long-haired woman of her coat, but the commotion from the fight had drawn the attention of her companions. Fortunately, there was still some distance between them. Kara put on the clothes and fled. The man chasing her shot at her from behind. She had to take cover behind a wall to avoid the bullets. As the man drew closer, Wings appeared just in time, and detected that its owner was in danger. It immediately swooped down and killed the man. Kara was about to take the opportunity to escape, when she was ambushed by a woman from behind. Kara took several hits. In a critical moment, a bullet flew through the air, and killed the woman swinging the club. A gunman emerged from the fog.
Who are you? It doesn't matter. Grab the AK. There might be more around. Come on, follow me.
Kara had no time to think and picked up the gun to follow. At this moment, David's group was firing wildly. The two of them crouched down, looking for cover. Kara accidentally entered a house. She held her gun, vigilantly surveying her surroundings. Suddenly, a man lunged at her, and held onto Kara's weapon. She broke free from his grasp, but her AK was thrown away. Two people fell to the floor and fought each other. The two of them fell to the floor, struggling with each other. Kara's strength was no match for the adult male. In an instant, she was pinned to the ground, unable to move. In a critical moment, she had a sudden idea. Kara reached out and ripped off the man's gas mask. As he inhaled the toxic gas, he began to struggle to breathe and collapsed. His neck swelled up like a goiter, and he kept coughing up white foam. The female gunman who saved Kara was hitting every target. She had already dealt with the main firepower. David hurriedly ran to a dark corner. He jumped through the back window into the building, where Kara was. Then, two of his accomplices followed him in. Kara fired and took down one of them. The female gunman shot and killed the other through the window. Now only David was left. Kara seized the opportunity to knock away his weapon, but he snatched the AK from her hands. David impatiently fired the gun, only to discover that it was empty. Kara took the chance to grab a wooden shard behind her, and plunged it into David's side with all her strength. Then Kara turned to pick up the handgun on the ground. Even as he was dying, David tried to cause trouble. He deliberately broke the controller for wings, and urged Kara to shoot quickly. She ignored his provocation and turned to leave. Kara then reunited with the female gunman. She then realized that the woman looked just like her. It was as if they were identical twins. Kara asked what was going on. The female gunman countered, asking for her identification number. Kara honestly replied, 4A16. The woman then stated her number, 95B71.
We're clones, you and I. Part of the Cora project. Nobody knew what they were, okay?
It turned out that Kara was a codename for the cloning project. According to their numbers, the female gunman was B71 and Kara was A16. Kara couldn't believe that she was a clone. The female gunman had anticipated this. She retorted to Kara, "Did you think you were an orphan? Growing up in headquarters, believing you were a part of the Fog project, with a strong sense of honor for this endeavor? The reason I understand you so well is that we share identical memories."
Did you ever think about why we could never see others? Go back to home base once in a while for a debriefing? Why there were so many ridiculous fucking protocols and rules we had to follow all the time?
Kara had indeed doubted why she had worked alone for 10 years, without ever having direct contact with headquarters, but she had seen Jack, which indicated that not everyone in the bunker were clones. The female gunman explained that Jack was just a male control group, and was one of the clones. After the great disaster occurred, the survivors initiated the cloning project to prevent human extinction, and to protect the existing population. Thousands of agents like Kara were sent out to do things that the survivors were unwilling to risk. Even if they died on a mission, they were merely insignificant clones. The female gunman bluntly stated, "We are seen by the survivors as mere tools created to be discarded. Once the project is completed, they will place bombs in the supply crates to eliminate us." The female gunman considered herself relatively lucky. The bomb she received didn't explode, which is why she survived. Kara couldn't help but ask, "Then why wasn't I blown up? Where did the people from headquarters go?"
Maybe they ran out of explosives or time, I don't know. I've been wandering around searching for them ever since.
The female gunman searched through her territory, but she found nothing. Kara was the only project survivor she had found. As the sky grew darker, the two planned to find a safe place to spend the night. The female gunman led Kara into a modified garage. She carried a red energy sphere that could keep the indoor temperature from dropping too low. The female gunman had previously retrieved a map from headquarters, with numerous notes written beside it. Perhaps this was the key to finding the survivors at headquarters. They likely had constructed a new large enclosed area. The female gunman only wanted a place to live. As she had been on the run for 4 years, she needed a safe haven. The next morning, the two followed the map's directions. Kara couldn't understand why the gunman was so certain that headquarters had established new territory.
Wherever they went, it must have been a good place. They wouldn't just abandon their home without a solid plan.
However, to proceed according to the map, they had to cross a river. The two needed to find a boat. Fortunately, they soon spotted a boat docked by the shore. The female gunman started the engine and crossed the river. They arrived in front of a towering building. The two searched the interior with their weapons drawn, but there was no sign of anyone inside, just as they were feeling disappointed.
Hello, my name is Aiden. You're in my home. If I wanted you dead, you would be very shot by now.
The female gunman followed Adam's instructions. She picked up the phone on the wall and connected the call. A visual display screen was embedded nearby. From their conversation, it was clear that Adam and others lived underground, hundreds of feet down in the mines. There, they could breathe freely, without needing filters or any protective gear. They were also aware of the existence of the cloning project, and had found the safe area entirely through their own efforts. Adam invited the two to stay and live with them. This world no longer had a future. Rather than continuing to run around outside searching for the truth, it was better to enjoy the remaining days. Of course, the condition was that the female gunman had to surrender her weapons. She pretended to accept Adam's invitation. When the person came close to collect the weapons, the female gunman immediately shot him dead. The gatekeeper quickly shut the door to prevent the two intruders from escaping. Both sides immediately engaged in a fierce gunfight. Kira fled to the second floor, pressing against the wall. The female gunman quickly moved down the stairs. Two armed men chased after her. In the blink of an eye, the female gunman disappeared. The two could only cautiously approach the inner room. Unbeknownst to them, Kira was lying in ambush there. She shot one of the thugs instantly. An accomplice threw in a grenade. Kira picked it up and threw it out the window. The thug heard the explosion and came in to check. He was shot dead immediately. On the other side, the female gunman saw one down after another. She approached the injured man and pulled off his mask. The female gunman watched as the woman suffocated to death. When Kira arrived, she happened to witness this scene. Just then, a thug attempted to ambush her. Kira quickly reacted and shot him dead. The female gunman also snapped back to reality. She continued searching down the stairs. A bullet suddenly came from the shadows, hitting the female gunman. Fortunately, the bullet didn't hit a vital area. She pushed away Kira, who wanted to help. The female gunman didn't go far outside. When a gun was pressed against her head, Hunt ordered the female gunman to drop her rifle and backpack, and then shot her in anger. Kira was unaware that her companion had been captured. She had just shot a thug who was reloading. Kira crouched behind the wall. The woman across was firing wildly. The two of them were shooting while clinging to the wall. Kira kept her rhythm and caught her off guard. Indeed, she hit her with one shot. She approached the injured woman and apologized. Hunt suddenly appeared, dragging the female gunman. Kira quickly hid in the shadows. Hunt saw his injured companion, and immediately reported to Adam. Adam didn't want to lose another subordinate. He ordered Hunt to let the two go. The condition was that they couldn't harm the injured one. The two sides reached an agreement to exchange hostages. The female gunman acted dishonorably. She turned and shot the injured woman dead. Hunt hugged his friend and cried bitterly. Meanwhile, Kara and the female gunman jump out the window and escape. The two continued toward the marked point on the map. Kara was the first to climb up the slope ahead. The female gunman collapsed halfway, due to excessive blood loss. She asked Kara what was on the other side of the slope.
Buildings, people. How many? Hundreds. No masks. Just normal people, you know. You did it, B7.
The female gunman gradually dies in her imagination. Meanwhile, Kara gazed at the endless wasteland. She stopped her lies. Kara approached the female gunman and removed her mask and control panel. She took a boat back the way she came. Kara traveled day and night. She finally returned to her own bunker. The narrow entrance was surprisingly open. David was slumped on the sofa, barely alive. He hadn't died yet. The room was stained with his blood everywhere. Kira had no idea how he had found his way here. She was about to ask him a few questions when David mocked her. "Did you find hope? There's no hope in this world." Kira shot him in the head, exploding it. At this moment, a warning popped up on her mask. It prompted her to quickly change the filter. Kira tiredly removed her mask. She was exposed to the toxic gas entering the bunker. Kira quickly began to struggle to breathe. Kira instinctively opened the computer and wanted to check if the network was restored. Instead, Kira saw a grass screensaver. She picked up the female gunman's mask. Kira hesitated on whether to put it on. After all, in this world, surviving was more of a curse. The film ends here. This is a 2023 Swedish sci-fi thriller, being a low-budget, obscure production. Even the cast and crew on a certain platform only had information on one actor. The story's setting is somewhat similar to Oblivion, released the same year. Both tell the story of survivors in a post-apocalyptic setting, who discover they are in a scheme during repetitive missions. The film's toxic fog setting is relatively novel. However, the script is poorly crafted. The special effects are very low quality. It fails to explain how people sustain food and water supplies when contaminated on the surface. The so-called gas masks and filters are also not well thought out. Overall, it is just a low-budget sci-fi film. The protagonist's identity as a clone is probably the film's biggest highlight. If you enjoy my video, please click subscribe.